The courtroom was packed. Cameras clicked, pens scribbled, and eyes stayed locked on the center bench. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, known for his poise and precision, sat solemnly. Before him stood Representative Jasmine Crockett, unwavering and dignified, facing a massive $200,000 fine. The charge: contempt of court. But not the kind that comes with loud outbursts or unruly conduct. This was about defiance in principle, a refusal to submit to what she described as a politically driven abuse of authority. And Roberts, he wasn't amused. Crockett had previously criticized the judiciary for what she called selective silence in protecting constitutional rights. That criticism, expressed loudly during televised committee hearings, had not gone unnoticed. Roberts, a staunch traditionalist, took it personally. The Chief Justice's decision to bring her before the court for disciplinary review shocked political observers. Many questioned the legality of such a move. After all, Crockett was an elected member of Congress, not an officer of the court. But Roberts insisted. In a 43-page memorandum, he accused her of undermining public confidence in the judiciary. The penalty: a staggering $200,000 fine and an official censure. No jail time, but a public rebuke like none other. As Crockett stood, dressed in bold royal blue, she radiated composure. Cameras zoomed in on her hands, no shaking. Her lips, tight, but not trembling. She was ready. Whatever was coming, she had prepared. Roberts began the session with a long-winded reading of legal precedent. His tone was icy, deliberate. This court, he said, cannot allow its integrity to be tarnished by political theater. He barely looked at her. She didn't flinch. Congresswoman, Roberts said, turning to her. You will now hear the penalty for your public contempt. A fine of $200,000 shall be imposed upon you personally. Payable within 60 days. The courtroom gasped. Reporters whispered into their mics, social media lit up in real time, and Crockett blinked once. Then she spoke. Chief Justice, she began, may I reply? Roberts nodded slightly, clearly expecting something rehearsed, maybe even remorseful. What came next would leave the entire room in stunned silence. Crockett stepped forward and took a breath, not to apologize, but to challenge not the institution, but its moral compass. Her tone was not defiant, but heartbreakingly sincere. This fine may hurt my bank account, she said. But it will never match the pain of watching our system lose its soul. That line made several court observers shift in their seats. Even a few clerks paused their note-taking. She continued, I love this country, and I love our laws. But I will not pretend that justice always walks blindfolded and pure through these halls. Sometimes, it stumbles. Sometimes, it is dragged. She recounted stories from her time in public defense. Poor single mothers jailed for missing court dates, black teenagers sentenced more harshly than their white peers for the same crimes. Her voice broke only once. I stand here today not because I broke the law, but because I broke tradition. And I will break it again if it means speaking for those who have no mic, no camera, no seat in this room, she said. Roberts looked stunned. This wasn't defiance, it was conviction. The kind that could not be silenced by a gavel. The room remained silent, all but the occasional cough or rustle of a reporter's paper. You say I undermine trust, she said, eyes locked on Roberts. But trust isn't protected by silence. It's built by truth. And my truth is not disrespect, it's pain, it's outrage, and it's hope all at once. She listed names: Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Khalif Browder, each name echoing like thunder in the chamber. They never got their day in this room. I speak for them. Then came the moment no one expected. She pulled a folded photo from her jacket. This is my cousin Marcus, she said. He was sentenced to 18 years for a nonviolent drug offense. His judge called him a waste of potential. She paused. I called him family. Crockett's voice cracked just slightly. I don't ask this court to erase the fine. I ask it to remember why the criticism came. Because the moment we stop questioning power, we stop being a democracy. Roberts blinked slowly. It was the first sign of emotion he'd shown all day. Crockett looked down for a moment, composing herself, before ending, you may take my dollars, but you will not take my voice. A hushed applause rose before being silenced by bailiffs. Even some court staff were seen wiping tears discreetly. Roberts didn't speak right away. For the first time, he looked unsure. Finally, after what felt like eternity, he leaned forward and said softly, "Congresswoman Crockett, this court acknowledges your statement." His voice was tight. His next words shocked everyone. "This chamber is not immune to criticism," Roberts said. "Though your conduct was unconventional, your courage is not unnoticed." It was the closest he had come to praise in years. Crockett nodded. "I came here to speak, not to fight." She collected her notes and stepped back. Roberts stared down for a moment. Then, slowly, he removed his glasses and sighed. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his gavel. "The fine stands," he said. "But this court will review its procedures on matters involving public officials. A motion for internal reform will be submitted within the month." Reporters erupted with headlines before they even exited the room. Roberts moved to tears. One read, "Crockett's statement reverberates across D.C., read another." Outside the court, supporters flooded the stairs. Some brought flowers. Others, handmade signs. "Thank you, Jasmine. Truth over tradition. This is what courage looks like." Crockett didn't speak to cameras right away. She sat on the steps and took a deep breath. "Let them write what they want," she whispered. The people saw it. Meanwhile, Roberts remained inside, alone in chambers. Staff said he was unusually quiet. He had not expected to be emotionally shaken, but Jasmine Crockett had broken through. The $200,000 fine became a symbol. A GoFundMe was launched within an hour. By morning, it had raised $1.1 million, with donors from every state and even abroad. But Crockett refused to accept the full sum. "Donate the rest to legal defense funds," she said. "I've said my piece. Now let's lift others up." The clip of her speech went viral. It was played in classrooms, shared by activists, and quoted on news panels. Even late-night shows praised her grace under fire. Roberts' office issued a follow-up statement. It read, in part, "The court reaffirms its commitment to fairness and is open to internal review." A rare public gesture. Congressional colleagues, once silent, rallied behind Crockett. Her approval ratings in her district skyrocketed. People now saw her not just as a politician, but a symbol. Civil rights groups applauded her stand. They said, "She reminded America that patriotism sometimes looks like protest. And that silence can be the loudest threat to justice." Crockett later said, "I didn't want a moment. I wanted a movement. And in many ways, she got exactly that." Meanwhile, Roberts was seen. The court quietly began working on new guidelines. Internal discussions included more tolerance for political speech, especially from elected officials. Crockett's moment was already reshaping the system. Meanwhile, the House Ethics Committee declared they would not pursue any separate actions. Her remarks were protected, they ruled. And needed. As weeks passed, more stories surfaced. Young activists, law students, even judges who were inspired by Crockett's stance. Her office was flooded with letters. One letter came from a retired judge in Mississippi. "I ruled too harshly for years. Your speech opened my eyes. I owe some people an apology." Jasmine Crockett didn't gloat. She didn't parade the headlines or bask in viral fame. Instead, she kept working, fighting evictions, sponsoring justice reform, mentoring law students. "Power doesn't scare me," she said in a later interview. "Silence does. That's why I spoke. Because the law should feel like a shield, not a weapon." She also met with families of those she'd named in court. "You honored them," one mother told her, holding her hand with tears in her eyes. The Supreme Court, too, evolved. Justice Roberts, while never publicly apologizing, showed a different tone in future sessions. Less rigid. More receptive. Scholars noted the shift. "This moment, Crockett's confrontation, will be studied for years," said a Harvard law professor. It was a spark that made the system blink. News channels replayed the court footage often. It became symbolic. A woman of color, standing tall, challenging the most powerful judge in America, and making him listen. The money raised in her name funded dozens of legal aid cases. Crockett made sure none of it was wasted. "Every dollar should speak, like I did," she said. One client, freed from wrongful conviction due to those funds, said, "I never knew her. But she saved my life." Crockett's speech was later added to the Library of Congress records. A modern-day defense of dissent, forever preserved. Young law students quoted her in debates and moot court competitions. "You may take my dollars, but not my voice," became a rallying cry. Even critics grew quiet. What could they say? She faced power directly, without fear, and she never wavered. Some called it the moment she became a national figure. Her future in politics became the topic of speculation. Senate, governor, even higher. She dismissed it all. "I have work to do. I didn't come for titles. I came for justice." She did, however, receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom the following year. Not for the confrontation, but for the change it started. The White House statement read, "Jasmine Crockett reminded us that the Constitution belongs to the people, and that courage often sounds like truth spoken in a courtroom." In a quiet moment, months later, she returned to the Supreme Court steps, not for a trial, but for reflection. She stood where it all happened. No cameras, no crowd. "This place made me cry," she whispered. "But I made it listen." She smiled faintly. The moment belonged to history now, but the movement had just begun. Judge Roberts, meanwhile, was seen mentoring new clerks with unusual candor. "Challenge me," he said once. "Don't flatter me. Make the court stronger." That day in court didn't end in victory for either side. The fine stood. The system remained. But something deeper shifted. Respect was no longer one-sided. Crockett later said in a podcast, "Justice doesn't wear a robe. It wears the face of whoever needs it most." Her words continued to ripple across classrooms, city halls, and courtrooms. More than a speech, it was a plea, a warning, and a vow. The moment was compared to historic speeches: Anita Hill, Barbara Jordan, even Thurgood Marshall. Crockett had earned her place among them. Not because she won the argument, but because she turned punishment into purpose, and fire into fuel. Her next campaign slogan was simple: "Speak. Even when your voice shakes." The public responded in droves. Donations surged. Hope rekindled. Though she still paid the $200,000 fine, she framed the receipt. Not as a trophy, but a reminder. This price wasn't for contempt. It was for conscience. Roberts never again issued such a harsh penalty for political speech. When asked why, he reportedly said, "Because once, someone taught me better." Their unlikely connection became the subject of a documentary, Gavel and Grace, The Day Justice Listened, which won awards for its honesty and emotional weight. Jasmine Crockett returned to her district with renewed energy. Her town halls were packed. Her inbox overflowed. But she stayed grounded. "This is not about me," she told constituents. "It's about making the law feel like a home again, for everyone." She funded scholarships, opened community legal clinics, created programs for young black women to enter the legal field. Her legacy was already blooming. As for Roberts, he continued his tenure with quiet reflection. And though he never admitted it publicly, those in his circle said, "She made him cry, and think." And so, history would remember that day, not for the fine, but for the fire. For a voice that refused to be silenced. And for a judge who, at last, listened, fewer times in public that season. Insiders said the moment changed him. Not because of defiance, but because of honesty. And grief. In a private memo weeks later, Roberts wrote, "She made me remember why I entered the law in the first place. To serve, not to silence."